It's a beautiful afternoon in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where the Wolverines play host to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. For both teams, it's the first Big Ten Conference game of the season on the last Saturday of September. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Janine Edwards will join us shortly. Michigan has struggled through its first 4 games. They're only 2-2. And most of the negative publicity has come from the quarterback's play. He's always the focus, and today they make a change.
All week long, Brady Hoke and his staff wouldn't say if Shane Morris was going to take over for Devin Gardner. Gardner, of course, struggled at the end of last year, struggled mightily against Notre Dame, did not play well last week in a benching against Utah, and Shane Morris will get the start today. Second start for the sophomore. He started in lieu of Gardner last year in the bowl game, Gardner with a broken toe. But this change, when talking to Brady Hoke and his staff, was as much about the change. Gardner had taken so much criticism and was under so much heat, they figured let him sit down for a while and let's see what Morris can do.
Well, Minnesota is off to a 3-1 start going into Big Ten play, and they're an awful lot like Michigan. They love to run the football. They play good, solid defense, and they've had issues at quarterback.
And for Jerry Kill and his staff, there has to be a sigh of relief that Mitch Leidner will be able to play today. Last week against San Jose State, Leidner has a turf toe and a knee injury on his left leg. Wasn't able to go. He's a better passer than the backup, but they learned a lot about their backup in Chris Streveler, and we were told that he will play. They do want to go with a 2-quarterback system. Streveler ran the option extremely well last week against San Jose State.
The Little Brown Jug, something both teams want, but only one can keep it. The journey to see who gets it starts with the kickoff when we come back. Welcome back to the Big House at the University of Michigan for Minnesota and Michigan. Janine Edwards will work the sidelines for us. She's with Brady Hoke.
It's been the most talked about quarterback situation of the week in college football. And, Coach, I know it wasn't easy for you to have to bench your starter. What did you take into consideration in deciding to start Shane today?
Well, I can tell you that we got 2 great quarterbacks, 2 great kids who believe in Michigan, and we're excited about both of them. Whenever you make a change in any position, you've got to make it for the right reasons, and that's for the program. And we'll see. You know, I think it's healthy for a guy to watch a while.
Program's been under the microscope a little bit more than usual in the last couple of weeks. Describe how the added attention has affected your players.
You know what? They haven't shown it because they've come out every day and they've worked hard. They love each other. They care about each other, and they'll play for each other.
Thanks, Hoke. Have a great game today. Thanks a lot. And, guys, his players have gone public this week and saying, you know what? We care about our coach. We want people to know we stand behind him. He's the heartbeat of our team. Mike?
Janine, thanks very much. Michigan won the toss, deferred to the second half. Minnesota will receive, and the kick goes into the end zone. And they will not bring it out. Mitch Leidner is the quarterback. He has been limited by a turf toe and has not been an accurate passer so far. Less than 50% on the season with only 2 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions.
Last week against San Jose State, Chris Streveler had to go and ran the zone read option, which you'll see Leidner run a ton of. Ran it to perfection. They only attempted 7 passes against San Jose State. Didn't need to throw it much, but with Leidner, expect them to throw it a bunch more than that today. 20-25 attempts is what they're going to go for, is what they told us.
Cobb, the deep man in the eye, nailed at the line of scrimmage. Jared Wilson first up from his safety spot.
Well, impact players when Minnesota has the ball. David Cobb, 2 games over 200 already this year. Max Williams, who did not play last week with a calf injury, a big deal for them. Probably their best player on offense. Frank Clark quickly becoming not just one of the best linemen in this league, but in the entire country. And Jake Ryan now moved to middle linebacker from outside linebacker a year ago. He's involved in almost every run play.
Cobb in the top 10 in the Big Ten in rushing, breaks it to the outside, cuts it back across the 50, down to the Michigan 40-yard line. A 35-yard burst from David Cobb out of Killeen, Texas.
Well, the defensive line to that side, number 69, Willie Henry, stunted to his left, and it opened just a huge hole on that side. It looked like the defensive line for Michigan may have not gotten the same call. Not clear why Willie Henry would have bailed from that side so quickly.
Cobb stays in the ball game as they go to the shotgun. Leidner on the option, gives to Cobb, and not this time. Cobb can't even get back to the line of scrimmage. He is swarmed by the Michigan defense.
Well, as I'm just mentioning, the good zone blocking. This is not good zone blocking, but excellent work by Chris Wormley. Defensive lineman did a nice job getting his hands inside the offensive lineman, pushed him away. And now for Minnesota, you cannot get any lost yardage here. You're right on the edge of whether you can try a field goal or not. The kicker, Santoso, does have a big leg, but has been inaccurate.
Another huge third down. They're spotted at the 36-yard line. And they throw high to Berkeley Edwards out in the flat.
You know, you're right at the edge of whether you want to try a field goal here if you're Minnesota, because if this ball is kicked low and blocked, that's a huge change of momentum. It would
be 53 here from Ed with a little trailing wind.
Yeah, and I do not blame Jerry Kill here for sending out his punter. It was that penalty, I think, that changed it. If it was 5 yards closer, I think you probably kick it. But at this point in the game, you kick it low. They've had a mishandled snap earlier in the year. I understand this decision.
Another high floater. This one will hit and cross the goal line. So the penalty really hurts Minnesota. Instead of the 7-yard line where the first punt went, they'll take it out to the 20. Logan Hutton had a shot at it but couldn't quite keep it in play.
2 big penalties for Minnesota on that drive.
This is Shane Morris getting the second start of his career in limited action so far. His numbers not very good, completing only 35% of his passes, 2 picks and no touchdowns.
And the heat has been on the offense, and Doug Nussmeier, the first-year coordinator who came over from Alabama, both he and Brady Hoke feeling like the change from Devin Gardner to Morris is as much about letting Gardner take a little bit of a breath. The senior has just been bombarded with criticism. Hasn't played well, but it's been a tough road for him. Let him sit for a bit.
Derek Green, 5th in the Big Ten in rushing, gets the carry and picks up maybe a yard. Jack Lynn and Devondre Campbell, the outside linebackers, waiting for him.
Impact players Devin Funchess, who had a leg injury against Notre Dame and did not play in the second half in the loss last week against Utah, is back and healthy and a big target. Derek Green, really impressive guy, becoming one of the top backs in the conference. Theron Cochran, a former high school basketball player, now a fierce defensive end for Minnesota. And Derek Wells, a guy who didn't get to play much last year for Minnesota, helps a really good secondary with depth.
Fakes it to Norfleet. Throws over the middle and has a completion to his favorite target, Devin Funchess. And it's going to be a first down for Michigan, except there is a flag down.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer. Defense, number 92. 15-yard penalty will be added on to the end of the run. First down.
Robert Dondole is called for a personal foul roughing the passer. This is the best throw Shane Morris has had.
And here is Dondole. I don't know that you call that. I know it was a half a step, but he was pulling back, and that was a little bit of acting by Morris. That's big 15 yards for that action.
I mean, that's almost like a punter going down after the foul.
I don't think you throw that flag. That doesn't seem like that's the
Davion Smith in a tailback. He'll get the carry. Smith still on his feet, fighting for extra yardage down to the 43. Cedric Thompson makes the tackle, and he's taken the spot filled by Brock Vereen last year, who was a 4th-round draft choice of the Chicago Bears, so they lost a good one there. And
the defensive line for Jerry Kill lost 3 starters in that game I mentioned earlier against TCU. Amefila comes back. Michael Amefila comes back today, but they're still missing Alex Keith and Scott Ekpe, who's out for the season. So 3 starters have been in and out of the lineup for Minnesota defensively this year. Michigan has gained 29 yards total offense in the first half. They're going to lose a couple here.
as Minnesota has done a heck of a job defensively in bottling them up. Thieron Cochran and Jack Lynn were in on the stop, and the 3 Minnesota linebackers are 1, 2, and 3 on the number of tackle charts. That means that front 4 is doing its job cutting down that offensive line. That is the end of the first quarter. And in these days of wide open football, we are 0-0 at the end of 1. Third down for Michigan. Delayed blitz coming. Incomplete pass over the middle.
The thing that, and I studied the second half of the Utah game with Shane Morrison, went back and looked a little at the bowl game. We saw that throw when he rolled to his left and how accurate and calm he was. He seems like he's still trying to get comfortable in the pocket. I'm not sure how many calls I'm going to be making if I'm Doug Nussmeier with this young man in the pocket. Get him moving around. Get Derek Green going. Get the run game going. I'm not sure how many more pocket passes I'm going to call until Morris is into a better lather in this ball game.
1 out of 6 so far. Pretty end over end kick down to the 5, but it kicks into the end zone. 45-yard kick. And it's got to be more frustrating because they've actually moved the ball well. Cobb again can't get outside, pushed back. Going to Raleigh has been a nightmare for the Seminoles.
Started when Chuck Amato, the old Florida State coach, went there to coach, but that's a paper #1 to me. What I saw against Clemson, that's not the best team in the country. And I know that their Heisman quarterback was out, but Clemson up front defensively manhandled that Florida State offensive line.
Yes, they did. And that was supposed to be a strength of the team this year.
And don't forget, Clemson was playing their backup quarterback as well. So that game, to me, really exposed Florida State.
Well, he was more like the quarterback in waiting than their backup.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even so, on the road at Florida State, I thought Clemson was a better squad the other night.
They played him tough. 3rd and long here. Joe Bolton was in on the stop in that last play. He already has 6 tackles for the Wolverines. Leidner will go to the shotgun. Do you throw it down here deep in your own territory? Nothing. Yes, they will. And off the hands of Berkeley Edwards. Wide open, and Leidner put it right on his hands. You've got to catch that ball.
I'm not sure if Jake Ryan didn't get a finger on it. Let's take a check for 47 as he gets into his drop. Nice and slow. Yep, got a finger on it. Yeah.
Good call.
Boy, you know, that's tough. Leidner is, you just have to get a touch more air. It's funny, you know, the Michigan coaches talk about their quarterbacks having trouble getting it over the linebackers. That was Leidner there, but Jake Ryan, the senior, just got enough of it for the incompletion.
They've got Darboh back with Norfleet. And Norfleet will come up to make a fair catch after a 35-yard kick. Michigan will start for the first time in Minnesota territory. Davion Smith able to burst through the line of scrimmage. Gets down to the 40-yard line. Devondre Campbell made the stop.
Smith, one of multiple running backs Michigan will play. You'll also see a smaller back in Justice Hayes occasionally, but
you know,
we're
all so quick. We see one ball game, and we want to make a season's worth of assumptions based on that one game.
And remember, the committee, it is chosen by a committee to play off. They'll have an entire season.
Smith again on the option. He's got a big hole this time. Breaks out of a shoulder tackle, and Smith inside the 20, inside the 15. Still driving. 5'11", 220, dragging tackles with him for 28 yards.
Well, the left tackle for Michigan is a true freshman, number 52, Mason Cole. And the coaches told us yesterday he may be playing the best of anybody up front for us. He demolished the left side of that line.
Let's make a prediction. I think you will agree with this. He is going to be their next All-American tackle. And they've had a few here.
I'm watching number 52 yesterday. He did not look like a true freshman. Good feet, finishes his block, and he just buried his man on that play.
2 tight ends on the field. Smith Just a couple, cannot quite reach the 10-yard line before he is thrown back.
And it was tough up front for Michigan last year. They went through different lineup after different lineup. Never really got to settle on the final five, but they got Mason Cole, a true freshman, was able to come for spring practice. It's the new trend where guys graduate high school early and they can spend the spring semester and get 15 practices with the new offense, and that's just such a huge growth factor for a guy to come in. You label him a true freshman. I think we got to start calling these guys true freshmen plus. They got that spring under their belt.
Michigan slowly but surely has won the field position battle. And now they are deep in Minnesota territory. Smith, touchdown. Davion Smith coming in the last two series instead of Derek Green, and he has made the difference along with the left side of that Michigan offensive line. Unbelievably, that is the first offensive touchdown against a Power 5 conference team this season.
And the first time they've been inside the 20-yard line.
That's remarkable. And they did it running the football. And Michigan in the battle for the Little Brown Jug is up 7-0. Great blocking up front. Cleared a big hole for him, and he took advantage. Couple of backups making the difference so far for Michigan. Smith, 51 yards on the ground in a couple of series, averaging 8.5 a carry. Morris, the quarterback, although he hasn't had a big impact so far. And Minnesota on the return will take it up short of the 30-yard line. Jalen Myron brings it back.
And that last drive, you started to see a zone read type of package in there with Davion Smith. And I have to suspect, if I'm Brady Hoke, I'm walking over to Doug Nussmeier. Nussmeier is down on the field as the offensive coordinator and saying, with the quarterback play that we've had, it's not been great. Let's just pound it. If this offensive line is going to start to come together the way they feel it can, they feel good about this offensive front, don't be surprised you don't see a whole lot of pocket passing out of Michigan the rest of the way if this game stays competitive.
Leidner sets up in the pocket, throws a back shoulder throw, incomplete, intended for Donovan Jones, but he was covered beautifully by Raymond Taylor.
Taylor was a guy who missed the last two ball games, Miami of Ohio and Utah, with a leg injury he suffered against Notre Dame. We mentioned a moment ago what great coverage there. In college football, you don't have to turn around and find the ball. You just can't run into him. But with Jabril Peppers out, a true freshman they like in the secondary, who's hurt this week during practice with an undisclosed injury, to have Taylor back and healthy is a big deal for Michigan.
Leidner has missed his last 5 after a good start. Throws underneath to Cobb, shakes a tackler. Cobb in the open field. Cuts back inside the Michigan 40-yard line. Most teams run on second down after they've passed incomplete on first down. That basically was a run play.
How much different does this offense look than it did last week for Minnesota against San Jose State?
Totally.
Yeah, Greg Madison, the defensive coordinator for Michigan, was kind of laughing. He's like, there's no way we're going to see 7 passes, especially if Leidner plays. And he was right. But that was a nice delayed throw to the running back. All of the defensive line had already gotten upfield, and Cobb was standing there by himself.
Cobb already has 102 yards in total offense. Leidner wants to throw again. Throws inside to Frichte. Isaac Frichte makes his second catch of the season.
And a nice catch.
It was.
He had a defender on his back. He reached out, snatched it with his hands, was able to keep his balance. Young receivers, you have to be able to catch the ball away from your body, and that is a big deal for keeping your balance and for yards after catch. If you have to cradle it and can't catch it out front, it really cuts down on your ability to run after catching it.
Leidner had a lot of room to run. Instead, he'll throw and complete it to Drew Wolotarski. the 4th wide receiver, and you don't expect this kind of accuracy out of Leidner. He came into this game completing only 48.1% of his passes. That's 114th in the country among quarterbacks.
He did a nice job there. Got his shoulders square. If he was healthy, he probably takes off because it looked like he had 10 or 15 yards, but that throw right on the money.
This is an impressive drive for Minnesota in an answer to Michigan's score. Ojemudia makes the tackle as they try to give it to Cobb again. Goes off the right side. They have had much more success up the middle than off the left.
That looked like an early snap by the center, Tommy Olson. It caught Leidner completely off guard, and
Cobb wasn't set either.
Yeah, the mesh just looked terrible. A lot of times you do use a silent count, not just on the road, but when you run the shotgun, a lot of times it is on the center when he snaps it, and that looked early by Olson.
It's a very familiar number that Tommy Olson wears, number 58. 3 different members of his family have worn that number. Flanker screen inside the 10 goes Frichte.
Frichte has a nice feel. Surprised of course, the pass game has been a struggle for Minnesota all year, but this is a guy who looks like he has a good feel for spacing and is terrific after the catch. He's gaining yards the minute it sticks to his hands.
And right now, Leidner looks like he's found a rhythm.
And maybe Frichte's the guy that he has the most luck with in practice. You do see guys start to favor someone that they trust, and with this guy's hands and ability to run after the catch, not surprised, starting to trust him.
3rd and inches, they go heavy. Leidner on the keep after a great fake. Nobody out there, and Leidner scores. What a great play call as everybody in the big house, and there's a player down for Michigan. Everybody in the big house on 3rd and inches knows it's going to be Cobb. And that was a great fake by Leidner, and he carried it out and gets a touchdown. Santoso comes on for the point after. And they complete a 72-yard drive in only 7 plays, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And Leidner was 4 out of 5 on that drive for 61 yards. And then he ran it in himself to cap it. We're tied at 7. This is the Win Wall in the newly renovated Towsley Museum here on campus in Ann Arbor. Michigan honors each of the 900-plus victories with a football. It's got other artifacts outlining Michigan football history. The first one was a 1-0 win over Racine. I don't know what it was that got you 1 point. I think it was probably a touchdown at that point, but 1-0 was their first victory.
And the first game for the Little Brown Jug against Minnesota way back in the early 1900s. That's not one of the wins on there. That was a tie, 6-6, when that water jug was left behind by Michigan and now is played for every year in this matchup.
Well, they call this the Big House when they built it in 1927, and that's where the Little Brown Jug is stored to protect it. They'll bring it out later. They had 72,000 seats here in 1927. Norfleet trying to cut it outside, does not reach the 15-yard line. Outstanding coverage by Minnesota. And now for today's Aflac trivia question. Why did Michigan initially purchase the Little Brown Jug? And it has to do with a conspiracy theory. we can go back a long time, and they were still at work.
I will say, though, there's a problem technically with this question, because when they first bought it, it wasn't brown. It was painted brown later.
Please. Really? It's brown now, so what's the difference? What was it then? The little gray jug?
I think it was pink because it was clay. I read that this morning.
Shane Morris comes out throwing.
But good coverage that time. Devin Funchess was running a double move route to the left, and it was totally locked down by Minnesota.
Smith, the running back, and he'll get the carry. Hit just as soon as he got the ball and was dragged down by Theron Cochran again. A young man who's gained 45 pounds since he came to Minnesota, was a star basketball player in high school and has his weight now up to 255 on a 6'6" frame. He could probably add a couple of more.
And this defense for Jerry Kill and defensive coordinator Tracy Claeys, who took over as the head coach last year when Kill was down for this ball game and a couple of others struggling with epilepsy. But Claeys, the defensive coordinator, says we really hang our hat on this guy. We've had a bunch of guys hurt, especially in that TCU game, and he brings it every play.
Four-man rush. Morris, good protection, tries to throw underneath and has it complete to Justice Hayes, who made a nice grab on that ball, a little off target, but he was immediately taken down by Devondre Campbell. Pretty good grab here.
Yeah, Morris, and he tends to do that. Morris in the pocket, he just, even when the pocket's clean, he seems to move his feet a ton. But not enough. Good coverage by Minnesota.
They changed the formation. Hagerup to punt to James, presumably. Low line drive kick. James lets it go. And they'll down it at the 1. 53 yards. A perfect English on it. Dennis Norfleet, the great returner, downfield to make the save at the 1.
A lot of times the guys who are good at returning it are also good at being your, meaning the guy who goes down and has to handle the ball. Now in college football, the ball is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter if Norfleet is on the line or not. As long as that ball doesn't cross the plane, it is not a touchback. Wonderful job by Norfleet, but you see that a lot. Guys who are good returners are also good at being the guys on the outside running down to cover it and downing the ball as well.
And kickers have gotten so good at being able to kick the point of the ball and get that reverse English. They try to wedge out a little room, but Joe Bolden is there again. And Minnesota just trying to get a little breathing room down here.
And you do not call with 2 timeouts, 1 after first down if you're Michigan. But I think you have to consider it after second and third. You get them to fourth, clock stops after. You're going to have plenty of time here.
Doesn't that deep handoff make you a little nervous? Yeah. 7 yards deep.
Yeah, you hope that one of the defensive linemen isn't on a stunt and comes free, that's for sure.
Cobb is the deep man. Cobb will get it again. Little room to run this time, out past the 5, and he gets positive yardage after he gets hit. He manages to drag people a couple of yards downfield. They'll use the timeout to stop it at 1:31. Now for the answer to our Aflac trivia question, which is why did Michigan initially purchase the Little Brown Jug, which Ed contends was not brown, and Robert Flores says he's making it up. Because in 1903, Michigan head coach Fielding Yost did not trust Minnesota would provide pure water for his team. Now the Gophers wouldn't do that, would they?
What would you put in the water? That's what, when I read that, I was like, what would you put in the water to slow it down? But here was the mistake. The equipment guy didn't bring the jug home from the away game at Minnesota. When they called and said, we want it back, they said, well, you're going to have to win it back. And so began the Little Brown Jug.
Minnesota looking for a first down here. Play fake, they'll throw for it. Wide open, and they've got the first down out to the 27-yard line. Lincoln Plesek was open, and Leidner guided that one in there.
What a difference a week makes to have a guy like Mitch Leidner in there. Chris Streveler can throw, the backup quarterback, but not quite like this. And what a difference that play makes. Now with 2 timeouts and 1:16, a little space on the field, Minnesota, I think, should get more aggressive offensively.
Cobb in the eye. They only have 1 wide receiver. They're going to hope that he can break one. And Cobb shakes a tackler out across the 40. Now they should get more aggressive.
You have to. If they're going to stick to the run here, and watch how much time is going to start burning off this clock here once they get the stick set. They've got to go faster. You're in command here. You're almost at midfield. Boy, that's a lot of time to get a play off after that big a play.
They'll throw underneath and incomplete. Wide open Plesek again. And Leidner missed him. That will stop the clock at 48 seconds. And in college football, that's a lot of time. But they're not used to running any kind of a hurry-up offense either.
But you're right here on the 41-yard line. And you've got 48 seconds, 2 timeouts. And the sticks, when they move after the first down, the clock stops. You have to be ready. College football, but once they're set, they go, and that play before took 10 seconds off the clock.
You're going to need another 30 yards to have a legitimate shot at a field goal. Cobb straight up the middle. He'll get almost 10 to the 49. Now, how quickly can they hurry up? They'll use the timeout. Their second of 3 with 42 seconds to go. We'll see what they do when we come back. We're tied at 7, but Minnesota has outgained Michigan 185 to 106. And David Cobb with 91 yards rushing already, 39 more as a pass receiver. He's had a terrific first half. They fake it to Cobb. Throw it to Max Williams, their rising star at tight end. He's also an H-back, just with great hands and great instincts for the game. They're at the Michigan 41. Still plenty of time left, 37 seconds. They have a timeout.
And I just don't think you can really run the ball between the tackles. If you come up short of the first down, I think everything has to be either a throw or Leidner on the edge, maybe a toss sweep, but I just don't think you need to run it between the tackles anymore.
Cobb offset this time. They go out in the pass pattern. Now Leidner's going to keep it, slides in at the 38-yard line. Clock running.
Oh, this is a mistake. They're going to burn a lot of clock here.
Leidner dumps it to Cobb. Running room. Cobb to the 27-yard line. The clock will stop with 17 seconds left. They would have a legitimate shot at a field goal from here. It'd be about 45 yards. And again, they'll spike the ball to kill the clock.
Now that time, because
much better.
Right. And it's hard sometimes because you have to look at the whole field. On the play before when they spiked it, there was 2 receivers 30 yards downfield.
And tough for them to get back.
They have to come all the way back and get set. That time, everyone was in the middle of the field. Cobb had gained enough yards that those guys were able to come back, and they only took 1 second to spike it. So it was the play before that cost them 10 seconds because you just have to see where everyone is. You're in range to throw one up here. You're in field goal range.
They'll give it to Cobb, trying to get to the outside, reverses his field, inside the 15, Cobb inside the 10, and still driving. Holy cow, what a run. They had him as he went to the outside, but he spun back inside and gained 21 yards. Cobb already 112 yards rushing. He's a beast. The stiff arm got him free, and this guy is tough to bring down. Now they're going to try to get the 25-yard field goal from Santoso and take the lead going into the locker room. This would be huge for Minnesota's confidence. They've lost 22 of the last 23 games to Michigan. Taking the lead at halftime would be big, and they do. Even with losing some time off the clock on a couple of plays, this was an impressive drive.
Well, the call, I know I was being nitpicky about some of the runs and the clock going, but the call on third down from their own goal line, having the guts to do a play action when your passing game was struggling so much last week in Leidner back, that was a big call.
Let's go to the sideline and Janine.
Coach, what does a drive like that do for the impact, the momentum, the psyche of your team going into halftime?
Well, I think it's big because a year ago, even though I wasn't here, is that same situation arose and Michigan scored. So I thought it was a huge drive for us, but we've had other chances, hadn't capitalized, so we got to go back to work.
You are finding some success though in the air. What is facilitating the comfort level we're seeing from your offense and your quarterback especially?
Well, he's getting comfortable. And that's the most important thing, and we're going to continue to have to keep them off bounds, and so far so good, but we got to make sure when we cross that 50-yard line we get scores.
Okay, Coach, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That drive to get the field goal started at the 1-yard line. Our score at the half, 10-7 Minnesota. When we come back, the studio will bring you up to date on everything at halftime after these messages. Welcome back to the Big House at Michigan, where Minnesota is leading the Wolverines 10-7. Michigan made a quarterback change this week because quarterback play had been inconsistent. They had not been scoring very many points. Change, No difference.
Well, but they got the running game going, and against a good, solid defense, that's going to be huge for Michigan going into league play. The start of the Big Ten play today. And Morris ended up at least 6 for 10. He's up at 60%, and that run game was huge for them because it allowed him to settle in. And a guy making just his second career start, his first in the big house, I think Brady Hoke has to at least feel some comfort that Morris got into a rhythm. Let's see how he does here in the second half.
They left the field to a cascade of boos, and the Michigan faithful have not been very happy with the way this team has played.
Something that Brady Hoke and his offense have been fighting. They seem to have what they call drive-killing mistakes a lot when they're on offense. They'll get a positive play, then they'll back up. Now, this is still 1st and 10, so this isn't a drive-killing penalty, but certainly changes the opening half field position.
And changes the way you're going to call a game offensively as well. Green is back in at tailback. Michigan will start from its own 12. Green gets the carry. Nice play by Jack Lynn, the linebacker on the outside. We check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike and Ed, small victories for Brady Hoke right now. The Wolverines are last in the nation in turnover margin. They did not have a turnover in the first half, so Hoke very, very happy with that. But just as you guys were discussing, they've not been able to sustain drives. He's had 6 first downs. He said, we just haven't done much of anything offensively. He does feel quarterback Shane Morris looks comfortable enough, but he said, we've just got to keep our drives going.
And Janine, they have to get something out of the passing game. It's nice to see that the rushing game has done a little bit better, but that one was almost a disaster. Through the hands of Brian Body Calhoun, who had a pick 6 right there.
And double coverage to that side. Minnesota has been able to double cover the outside receivers. And that time, Body Calhoun read it perfectly, and the ball to the outside, not very accurately thrown.
We see so many quarterbacks these days stare down a wide receiver and throw the ball, and all they're doing is drawing the defense to where the ball's going. Big 3rd down here. Norfleet comes back into the backfield, then goes out into the flat. They throw a screen to the other side, and wide open is Justice Hayes. But he is stopped short of a first down. Damian Wilson, the middle linebacker, and you've got to hand it to this Minnesota defense.
Morris looks like he is not healthy to me, so do not be surprised if Devin Gardner, who was benched coming in this game, gets some run. But
Hagerup, who's gotten off some low returnable kicks, and there's another one, a terrible kick. James on the bounce across the 50. And down to the 40, and you have to think Minnesota is going to have to take advantage of the breaks and the field position they have had in this game. 3 points is too tenuous, and 10 points is not enough with all the things that have gone well for them.
And so let's see how Devin Gardner does. You know, he was dealt a little bit of it. Well, he's been dealing with a lot of adversity, but let's see if he can come back in and play.
Minnesota has been willing to throw it. Cobb is back beside Leidner. KJ May in motion. Blitz coming. Leidner unloads. KJ May with a catch and has the first down at the Michigan 25. Blake Countess made the stop, but it's a first down for Minnesota.
Your running backs better know what they're doing in the blitz pickup game. Watch David Cobb do a fantastic job. It's a double blitz. Bolden and Ryan, you take the first guy through. Excellent job by Cobb. And KJ May, a guy who they say has a good feel for the passing game, picks up a huge first down.
And Cobb had not been a good pass protector, but he worked very, very hard on it. Can't get past the line of scrimmage this time. Willie Henry with the tackle. We go to Janine.
Well, guys, I've been keeping a close eye on Shane Morris on the bench here. He has not been looked at by the training staff at all. He's sitting on the bench talking with offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier. But meanwhile, behind him, for the first time all game, Devin Gardner has been throwing and taking snaps from the center. So it looks like Gardner is warming up to possibly go in the game, even though the training staff has not been looking at Morris and doesn't appear like he's coming out because of an injury.
All right, thanks, Janine. Good job down there on the sideline. It is 2nd and 11. Kirkwood will get a carry. And he has no success either.
What'll happen a lot is the they'll say, are you okay? And then the coach will look at the backup and say, I'm not sure he is. Go get yourself warmed up. We'll go back with Morris, but if he's not able to move on that left leg, 98's going back in the game. And another big third down for Michigan defensively and for Minnesota. Leidner's been just such a difference maker for Minnesota on offense this week. Last week, of course, he was injured against San Jose State, but he's been a pretty crisp passer this afternoon.
From here, it would be a 45-yard field goal try. Leidner under pressure. Got away, dives back to the 31. That may have taken them out of legitimate field goal territory.
Well, they have a really big leg kicker in Ryan Santoso. He's a big guy at 6'6", 245. And Jerry Kill told us he's good from about 60, so they're going to trot him out. But Taco Charlton is this guy, 33. That's the second time this game where we've seen 33 just demolish his blocker and throw him into the quarterback.
He's already hit from 25. This will be from 48. It would be a season-long field goal to put them up by 6. Got plenty of it and knocked it down the middle. Minnesota extends its lead to 13-7 over Michigan here at the Big House.
I just wanna say.
Well, I will say the fans are getting restless with this offense. First year under Doug Nussmeier. First touchdown in this game against a Power 5 conference team. They failed to score against Utah, an offensive touchdown, or Notre Dame. So it has been a struggle.
Norfleet will not get much of a chance to return this one either. He'll take a knee, and we check in with Janine.
Well, guys, just an interesting observation down here on the Michigan sideline. You know, it was understandable. The Michigan coaches told us yesterday Devin Gardner was disappointed when he found out that he was being benched. What I've noticed throughout the game is that he has not interacted with Shane Morris at all. Gardner's been wearing the headset. He's been walking up and down the sideline. But every time the offense comes off the field, Shane Morris sits down with Doug Nussmeier for a one-on-one coaching session. And I haven't seen Devin Gardner anywhere near them.
Morris only 7 out of 12, 49 yards passing. He's back in there in this series after coming up gimpy in the last one. Throws this one, excellent coverage, an incomplete pass to Marius Travis. A backup safety knocked it away from Jake Butt. This secondary is really good, and people wonder why they were beaten so badly by TCU. The offense kept putting that defense in bad position. What did they have, 5 turnovers in that ball game?
Yeah, 3 of them on their side of the field, but that's just wonderful by Travis. But going back a moment ago to that report by Janine, it is a little odd that Gardner would not stay near the quarterback meeting. Not odd that it's only one voice, Nussmeier talking to the quarterback, but
blitz coming, Gardner lays it up and it's intercepted. Campbell, Devondre Campbell, 30 yards and a touchdown. Shane Morris was hit just as he threw it. Either Jack Lynn or Damian Wilson got there on the blitz.
Well, they bring Wilson through the middle, and it's Thearon Cochran actually who just beats the right tackle Ben Braden to the inside, and then does a wonderful job. And you could see Cochran there at the end putting his hands up, knowing that he was the one who did a wonderful inside move on that right tackle and broke that pass up.
Hard to put that one on Morris when you get drilled before you have a chance to get a clean throw. But a huge play for Minnesota. And they're up 20-7. Tipped at the line of scrimmage. There's the pick. And there is the touchdown. That may have put it away. Minnesota's only gained 8 yards in the third quarter. They squandered great field position on 2 different drives, but they have 10 points, a field goal, and then the defense gives them a pick 6. And they are stunning over 100,000 people here at the Big House. Norfleet thought about bringing it out, but takes a knee at the last moment. See if Michigan can take advantage of better field position. They start this series at their own 40. Funchess will go in motion. Smith, the tailback, they'll give it to Funchess on the reverse. Trying to get outside, nowhere to go. That is just remarkable pursuit by the Minnesota defense. Damian Wilson and Jack Lynn. Wilson turned it in. Lynn made the tackle, and Tracy Clay's defense is just doing a remarkable job.
Clays, who took over last year as the head coach when Jerry Kill was down. He suffered a few seizures, and Clay said he had a blast. The guys played so hard. They really came to work every day. He doesn't position himself to be a head coach, but he said, I enjoyed it so much. If someone called, sure, I'd take a look at that.
Pressure coming. The pass incomplete. Got it into the body, it appeared, to Jake Button. He couldn't hold it. And it's been a struggle for Shane Morris.
And that's been the issue. And you go back to the drive before, the pick six, that wasn't his fault. The right tackle got beat inside, and he was throwing it in that window and it got knocked down, but that throw was just off target. And when you study both Gardner and Morris on tape, that's been the issue. Accuracy has been a big problem.
Now they need to convert a 3rd and 15 to keep the football. Loose. Still loose. Now they say Minnesota has to fumble. And turnovers have just killed Michigan. They are the worst in the country in turnover margin. They are now at -12. Holy cow.
Cameron Botticelli, number 46, is having himself a heck of a ball game. He's lined up over on the left side, and watch the push into the quarterback. And as Morris goes to step up, he just simply drops the ball. Morris had a fumble last week against Utah. Well, you know, it looked like Botticelli may have gotten a hand in there actually to knock that clean. So give Botticelli credit, but that's
still the quarterback has to do a better job of protecting that.
And you have to move up in the pocket. You have to move up, not sideways.
They go with the end around to Donovan Jones, and Donovan Jones will have a first down. Minnesota now starting to dominate this game.
And Brady Hoke talked about in 2011, they won 11 games and they had 33 takeaways. They only have 2 so far on this season. And Minnesota feels like clearly the better team right now. The wind is completely out of the sails of Michigan, their fans and their players alike. And this is starting to become domination, frankly.
Power formation here. Cobb, the deep man, he'll get the carry, and Cobb cuts it off the left side. This guy has had a heck of a game. He's down near the 11-yard line. And you've got to credit this offensive staff for the play calling today. They have really mixed it up very, very well.
And Matt Limegrover, the offensive coordinator, and also serves as the offensive line coach. We were talking to him earlier in the week about the 7 passes he called last week against San Jose State. He laughed. He said, well, there's Matt right there. He said, well, we had a young quarterback, freshman, making his first start. He's more of a runner, and we didn't need to throw it. Well, this week with Leidner, it's been a whole different game plan.
Roderick Williams will get a chance to run the ball, and he bulls straight ahead inside the 5. Roderick Williams Jr. is a load. 5'11", 247 at tailback. Hello.
Is that why they have him down near the goal line?
Yes, sir.
And guess who's back in at left guard for Minnesota? Zach Epping. And that's the way they ran, and they cut right back off of that. Epping a little hobbled on that left ankle, but one of those guys that they just have to have in the ball game.
The crowd here is simply stunned by the way this game is turned. Williams lowers his shoulder, drives his way between the 2 and the 3-yard line.
And I would imagine if Minnesota sticks it in here, this crowd is headed for the gates. Last week against Utah, there was a 2.5-hour weather delay, and less than 2,000 people were here for the end of that game.
If they're heading for the gates, they'll be booing as they walk out. They are very proud of the huge crowds they get here, but there are some fans who came disguised as empty seats today. Leidner to Williams. Max Williams wide open. Another terrific play call. You know the defense is going to sell out on a run, especially when you've been given the ball to a 247-pound tailback. So you fake it, roll out, and throw to a wide open tight end.
This is the first team that Michigan has let consistently run the ball on them.
Yes.
They've been one of the best run defenses in the country. And when that starts happening, especially down around the goal line, you forget about guys like 88. The problem is 88 may be the best player on Minnesota's team. You may not want to miss him.
There won't be a traffic jam for this one. With 2:52 to go in the third quarter, they are already headed for the exits.
Give Botticelli the assist on the Max Williams touchdown. He was the one who caused the fumble. And just nobody home for Michigan. DeMonte Thomas just completely buys on the fake, and that's the guy who is in coverage. And don't need to cock the arm. Just get it there anyway. A little shovel pass. And Botticelli right there looked like, I still don't see how that ball came out. I think Morris maybe was dropped out.
And now Brady Hoke has a decision to make. Things have gone downhill so far and so fast for his quarterback. Do you make another switch, or do you just stick with it?
That's the hardest decision to make right now. But if you named Morris your starter, and this has not been all his fault, let's be clear about that. But I also
would almost think at this point that you would leave Morris in there, and then if you're going to make a change, go back to Gardner next week.
Well, I don't know how you would bench the guy right now. It has not been all his fault. But I will say, and we talked to Doug Nussmeier about this yesterday, I think Michigan needs to scrap part of their passing game. I know you have Devin Funchess, and I know you have Jake Butt, and I know you have guys you want to get going. But this has just been not good in the passing game. They have not gotten good play out of the quarterback position, but frankly, they haven't gotten good play out of anybody in the passing game. Yet they seem like they could run the ball. I think this has got to go to a run-based offense, and soon.
Blitz coming. Morris throws. Funchess got a hand on it and couldn't catch it.
There again was that timing. Ball got there sooner than Funchess thought it would. And that could happen when you make a change at quarterback. But this pass game for Michigan right now seems like a complete liability to them. It's turnovers. They're not eating enough time off the clock for a defense that's pretty solid. And everybody's at least half blue about it.
I think the kid was telling his dad, look, we can get free pizza if we leave now.
And this is, for Minnesota, what a big deal. Last year, Jerry Kill,
huge.
A coach that everybody talks about, the deep love and affection for Jerry Kill. He was not able to come to this game last year because of the change of East and West divisions. Minnesota had to come to Michigan for a second year, and Jerry Kill never even watched the film from last year's game until Sunday of this week. He said, I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Third down and long. Pass underneath, almost picked again. That's 2 interceptions that they have dropped. This time it was Jalen Myrick, the fastest player on the team. De Niro Lassiter was getting pressure on Shane Morris. A 3 and out. This game isn't over yet, of course, but it feels like.
It sure does. And the left leg of Morris got tied up one more time, and he came off limping. But if you are Jalen Myrick, the fastest guy on the team, you got to catch that ball.
See if Hagerup can get off another good kick. Really nice. Drives James back to the 24. Looking for a block. He's got a wall. And just pushed out of bounds the 45-yard line. Minnesota, in all 3 phases of the game, has dominated Michigan. Offense, defense, and special teams. This is a dominating performance. I think the crowd right now is too stunned even to boo. Berkeley Edwards, Braylon's younger brother, trying to make his mark in this one. And you know He wants to break one for 45 yards and do a little dance in the end zone.
Edwards not recruited by Michigan, and these fans are not going to miss it if Edwards is able to break.
No, they're going to have to listen to the rest of it
on the radio
with Dan Deerdorf.
I have to say, this is confusing. I studying and watching them, I just didn't think that Michigan, and they had a little bit of positive momentum in that first half on offense, and then they just continued to make their just huge mistakes and turnovers here in the second half. And frankly, you know, people talking about Brady Hoke's job security, I think it's ludicrous to think that he would be let go after this season. They've been to 3 straight bowl games, and I know people expect higher here, but you don't bring a guy back who was an assistant coach here during a golden era. It wasn't a mistake what he did at Ball State. It wasn't a mistake or luck what he did at San Diego State. So I think that talk needs to chime down a little bit.
Blitz coming. Williams with a dive. Did he catch it with one hand? He did. What a grab. And every time the word Max Williams comes out of one of the coaches' mouths, there's a pause after it like, boy, he is really going to be good.
Well, that's a one-hander. Looked like he had his arm under it. He's just got such great body control. And even though they list him at tight end, he plays receiver. He plays on the line of scrimmage. He plays in the backfield. Looks like the real deal.
Back to your point about Brady Hoke. I like him as a coach. I like him as a human being. I really hope he survives here at Michigan. Things don't look good here, but he deserves a chance to complete this turnaround. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Look at this score. Minnesota 27 at Michigan. The Wolverines have been held to 7, and Minnesota right now driving for more. Roderick Williams, the big kid, back in at tailback. He'll get it. No, Leidner kept after the fake to him. Leidner has done a nice job faking handoffs and getting big yardage afterward. Ohio State's defense exposed a little bit by Virginia Tech.
Sure were. And Gunnar Kiel, who first committed to LSU, then enrolled at Notre Dame, and now at Cincinnati, off to a monster start this season.
Up the middle for about 5 yards goes Williams. Frank Clark couldn't stop him at the line of scrimmage.
You know, we were talking to Brady Hoke and also his defensive coordinator, Greg Madison. When an offense struggles this much, I was asking about, you know, starting to lose some of the defensive players in the effort. And Greg Madison, no, that's not our guys. I like this group. I like their work ethic. And we got a sense yesterday talking to Jake Ryan that wasn't happening. But this one, I think, goes to a new level of frustration.
3rd and a yard and a half. Bootleg success down here. But Williams will try to get this, and he is stopped. So it'll be 4th and about 2 as Ryan Glasgow made the tackle.
And I love this decision not to kick the field goal. Well, okay, now they're going to go for the field goal. Here would be my concern if I were Minnesota. The only thing that changes this game is a big play, is a blocked return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I just worry about that. I wonder if on 4th and 2 you just don't run it again.
Don't be a scaredy cat. Okay, just go tack 3 more points on him.
They can throw them all.
He's hit from 25 and 48. And Santoso will try another 25-yarder. And sneaks it inside the right upright. Minnesota laying it on the Wolverines. The Little Brown Jug may be headed to a different location. It hasn't been in Minnesota to 2005. They're getting ready to bring it to the field. They'll keep it behind the bench to protect it. It'll be on the Michigan sideline, and if Minnesota wins, they will rush the Michigan sideline to get the Little Brown Jug and claim it for a year. Norfleet on the return. Still on his feet, fighting for extra yards. And here's Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike, it's understandable that the Gophers would be excited because they have not taken that jug home in 22 of the last 23 matchups with Michigan. So the defensive coaches, even before this quarter started, were yelling at their guys because the defensive players have been high-fiving and slapping one another on the back and waving to the crowd. And they're saying, guys, we've still got another quarter to go. Let's focus and let's finish and bring that thing home.
I remember hearing a coach saying the one thing you've got to learn to do is if you have been a downtrodden program for a while, you have to learn how to win. And so, under pressure again, throws, almost intercepted. I believe that ball hit the ground. Antonio Johnson nearly had a pick.
Well, and you're going to get a roughing the
Personal
passer.
foul, roughing the passer, defense, number 55, 15-yard penalty, first down.
That's Aaron Cochran, and he can barely stand up now.
Yeah, boy, they've just got to get him out of the ball game.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. He's got to come out. I mean, he was wobbly after that. Forget the limping.
Oh, you've got to eject Aaron Cochran. That is targeting. He drops his head, he launches. If it's forcible contact and it moves up into the head area, I cannot believe Cochran was not called for targeting and not only ejected from this game, but then he would be ejected for the first half of the second. You have to call that targeting penalty.
That certainly looked like it. Morris hangs in a pocket, throws over the middle, almost picked again. And these receivers are getting virtually, I don't care how good the quarterback is. If the receiver can't get any separation from the defensive back, you can't complete passes.
And I got to tell you right now that number 7 is still in this game is appalling to
There
me.
he comes.
It is appalling that he was left in on that play to throw the ball again as badly as he was hit by Cochran. And Cochran should have been ejected from targeting and missed next week. But to have number 7 in the game on a gimpy leg after a hit like that, that is terrible looking after a young player.
So Devin Gardner benched, comes back in the ball game, and all that is going to do is feel the controversy as he hits J.U. Chesson. Checking it was Jake Butt.
And a lot of the conversation around here has been at the quarterback position. You go back to the Notre Dame game when they were getting flogged in the second half. Many people said that Shane Morris should have been brought in the game. Doug Nussmeier standing there right next to Brady Hoke. They decided not to get some experience for Morris. And now I'm questioning what they did with Morris at the end of this game. The young man was obviously gimpy. He was obviously off target because he couldn't push off that left leg. And I feel like they left the young man in the game too long.
They got the first down at the 46. Let's see if Morris can give them any kind of or Gardner can give them any kind of a spark. He's going to take off. He's a terrific runner. Devin Gardner down to the 43-yard line.
Well, his helmet came off, and technically he's got to come out. But let's see who they put in. If they put Morris in, they just have to hand this ball off.
It's got to be the handoff.
Yeah, they've got to keep him.
Number 98, helmet came off. He must remain out of the game for one play.
But you know what? Still, he looks skimpy to me. Do not put him in the game. This is Russell Bellamy, the third-string quarterback. Shane Morris cannot be going back into this game. This young man looked groggy after that hit. He's being put back on the field. He can barely stand up. This is not good player management. We've talked about player safety in this game. Guys getting hit in the head. This is atrocious to me. This does not look good to me. Watch the hit by Cochran. And I think this is an illegal hit. It was called, but I think that Cochran should have been thrown out of the game. But number 7 back in the game after what looked like could have been a concussive hit. This is not good player management and player safety by Michigan.
He will hand off. Justice Hayes chased out of bounds to 40. That'll get Devin Gardner the opportunity to come back in the ball game.
And what a shame for Shane Morris. Came into the game and there's so much pressure on that quarterback position. A young man only in his second year in the program. But one of the reasons they made the change is they wanted to take some pressure off of Gardner and felt like it might help him down the stretch. And maybe this is a chance for him to loosen up and play a little bit and see what happens next week in competition.
Flushed out of the pocket. Big cheer from the crowd as he got down to the 22-yard line. They have had very little to cheer about today. A gain of 18 yards on the ground for Devin Gardner as they tend to Morris on the sideline. And obviously that left leg really hurting him.
And it's the offensive line was a big part of the backslide last year at the end of the season. And today, this Gopher front seven has completely outplayed the front for Michigan offensively.
He must not have any symptoms of a concussion because nobody is asking him any questions or looking in his eyes. Gardner under pressure. And down he goes back at the 35. Big pass rush. Botticelli again. What a game he has had. This entire defense for Minnesota has been terrific.
Botticelli right here and working over the left guard. Glasgow. Good pressure coming from the defensive end, but Botticelli has had a monster game. And this is a defensive front. Remember, they lost a second-round draft pick in Rashid Hageman, who was an all-Big Ten performer last year. They lost 3 starters against TCU. Got one of them back, but they were thin.
Blitz coming on Gardner as Alex Keith applied the pressure last time. J.U. Chesson makes the catch. Young man out of Louisville.
And Gardner looks like a guy who's playing looser and a little more relaxed. So
He
maybe,
does.
And that was part of the plan here. There wasn't one guy that was standing up and looking much better than the other. They decided to go with the change with Morris as much to give Gardner a breather on the sideline. And this might be just what the senior needed.
Hayes with him in the backfield on 3rd and 3. Gardner the quick out. Funchess inside the 5, driven out of bounds at the 3. It will be 1st and goal for the Wolverines, and Gardner has given them a spark.
Funchess, a guy who was playing tight end when he first got here, made the wise move to make him a receiver. He is good in the open field. He's good, competes for every ball that's thrown. And Devin Gardner looks like a different quarterback right now. I know this is garbage time, but he looks confident. He looks like he's in a flow. He's pulled the ball and run quickly, made good decisions.
They score a touchdown here. It gets them within 2 touchdowns. Make it interesting. Gardner draw play. Touchdown. Hasn't been much of a chance to celebrate for the Wolverines. If they go for 2 here, it gets them within 15.
And they're not even doing the math, but you're right. If at this stage you're down 16, well,
it would mean if they get 2 other touchdowns, they have to get 2 two-point conversions. I know some people like to wait till you have to do it. I would have preferred they had done it here, so at least you have a reasonable opportunity to look at it. Gardner on the draw. Look out for the onside kick here with 7:27 to go. Instead, they will kick it away. And I think Minnesota will be happy to see that. They will start with pretty decent field position.
And I said it. I think it would be a mistake to let him go as people start heading for the exits. It's in his 4th year. And remember, you let Rich Rodriguez go a year after he won 7 games and had a winning record.
That was Cobb with another big run. You're absolutely right.
But for Michigan, who, to me, this institution doesn't stand for taking a guy who he coached here. He had had great success before he got here. He had good early success. Now they're having a down year. And this team does look like it has some issues, especially offensively. Just being frank about it, I'm not sure they're going to finish above 500. But even that being said, it would blow my mind if Brady Hoke was not back on the sidelines next year for Michigan. Now, if it doesn't get better next season, then you'd have to make a change.
Yeah. I think, as much as I like Rich Rodriguez and always have, I think he was the wrong hire for this school, the wrong system for this school. You changed the culture of a program that did not need to be changed. The culture of this program was just fine as it was.
And that's been part of the thing that Brady Hoke and his staff have had to do, is get back more to a power run game, an offensive line that fires out down the field, doesn't run sideways in a kind of mirror blocking scheme. So there has been things to change. But the truth is, year 4, your offense shouldn't be this bad. And at Michigan, they have to find a quarterback that's more accurate.
Cobb, another gaping hole off the right side. Is this guy any good?
I think so. Unbelievable. He had very little play time before last year, and he breaks out with 1,200 yards.
30 carries, 165 yards. He has, in his total offense, he has outgained Michigan as a team by himself. And it's going to be a fun Minnesota trip home.
And what an amazing job by Jerry Kill and his staff. We mentioned earlier in the game that Kill, last year Minnesota came to Michigan. There was a change in the schedule because of the change in the divisions in the Big Ten. So Minnesota coming to Michigan last year as well, and Kill was not able to come.
It's hard to find a silver lining for Michigan right now. And it's hard not to see all the good work that Minnesota has done under this staff, all the good recruiting and all the good coaching. It has paid off in every single area.
And we talked about those change of divisions. Minnesota looking like a team. There's no one in the West. Wisconsin doesn't stand out to me. Iowa doesn't stand out to me. So Minnesota,
Nebraska?
I think, yeah, Nebraska has their issues, obviously. I think you have to think of Minnesota as a favorite in the West. The only
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, but the only problem, they finished the year, Ohio State at Nebraska at Wisconsin at the end of the year. But, you know, the way Leidner played today.
Cobb again.
Nice
He
job
was
staying in
impressive.
bounds. Yeah. The way Leidner played, and they got Chris Strevler some backup time last week. He shows that he has speed and can run the option. And this is something you can build on. And Max Williams looks like a guy who can make plays for you on offense.
And one other thing, they have shown some depth, something they've never had before. I don't know if they have enough depth to go through the rugged last part of their schedule. And now the Minnesota fans coming to the sideline, they haven't practiced this very much, but they're going to get to rush across to the other side of the field and claim the Little Brown Jug for only the second time in 24 meetings.
And it is a big deal. The start of league play in this conference is a big deal. Everybody talks about it, and the trophy games in this conference are huge. This is the oldest trophy game in college football, and Minnesota gets to come over to the sideline of Michigan and take it back.
And here they come. Jerry Kill missed this game a year ago. But they've got to, don't drop it.
It is made of clay.
What a thrill this has got to be for this ball club. They go to 4-1. They will be heavy favorites in their next 3 games. They have a chance to go 7-1 before that brutal finish to their schedule. And this is a victory that's going to go down in history as one of their biggest wins. Let's go down to Janine. She's with a very happy Jerry Kill.
Jerry Kill just got the longest hug ever from his wife, Rebecca. It's been 1 year coming. You missed this game last year, Coach, with health conditions. Your wife's been a big part of helping you manage your condition. What does this mean to you to come back here a year later and get this win?
Well, it's great for the kids. It's about the kids and what they did a year ago without me. Second thing is my wife allows me to coach. Not many would with my situation. And third, I think Doc Smith in Grand Rapids, Michigan has saved my career.
Wow, that's quite a statement. We are so glad that you are doing better. What does this moment represent in the history of Gophers? I mean, 22 of the last 23 matchups, the Wolverines have kept that jug. What does this moment represent?
Well, I guarantee you the state of Minnesota and the people back there, they are rocking and rolling right now. So it's great for them. I've been here for 4 years, but they've had a long history of this game. And just to be a part of it from a little old town in Kansas, 2,000 people, I doubt if anybody thought I'd be here.
Congratulations, Coach. Well done, and we're glad you're here to enjoy this victory.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Mike?
If you know Jerry Kill, if you have ever met him or met the coaches on his staff, you know what a big deal this was.
And look at the fans from Minnesota, just able to enjoy. And Max Williams, what a difference this guy makes. You know, these are not just a bunch of tough, gritty guys. They've got some guys that are going to play on Sunday now.
Talent
yeah,
there.
this program is changing.
One of the biggest wins in the history of their program, and for Michigan, what a disappointing day for the Wolverines and their program. We thank you for watching. For Ed Cunningham and Janine Edwards, Mike Patrick, once again, the final score, Minnesota